welcome to another edition of E-Expressions for the New Indian Express. I have with me an esteemed panel. There's Professor S.B. Roy, who's the chairman of the Indian Institute of Biosocial Research and Development. Welcome, Professor Roy. There's Dr. A.B. Ota, who's the director, Odisha Tribal Research Institute. He's an anthropologist as well as an IS officer, so someone who's seen tribal life from both sides. Professor Roy has been possibly studying tribal societies for longer than most of us have been alive. And we have Mr. Chawla, who's also been practicing journalism for longer than most of us have been alive. Hello and welcome to all of you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Salud.
And it's August 9th is actually the International Day of World's Indigenous Peoples. So this is perhaps the perfect occasion to discuss conservation-based sustainable tribal development, on which both of you, sir, are experts. I'd like to put the first question to Professor Roy. What exactly do we mean by the conservation-based sustainable development, and how important is it for tribals in India?
Thank you, Kaveri. I remember one of our conversations, maybe it was last month, and you asked me, what do you mean by tribal development?
Yes.
I begin with this. I begin with a story which we had learned in our school days. Number of blinds were there. One elephant was brought before blinds, and they were asked to describe elephant. You know, each blind, whatever had in his hand, the leg, the ear, the tusk, you know the story, each blind described in their own way.
Right.
It happens in case of a tribal development also. When I asked Dr. Ota or an anthropologist or a forester or Kaveri, what do you mean by development? I don't think all of us will come with a single frame. I mean this development. Now, if all of us in the framework of policy maker, teacher, implementation people, or the media people, if all have got different views, how are we going to have a concrete plan of development action?
Right.
So this is the first challenge. And I tell you, if you ask me, well, what S.B. Roy will tell about it? I will follow certain international, universally accepted framework or definition of human development. And that is, when you compare the human development of tribe, of a village 1 or village 10, how do you say which village is having a better human development? For that, we must have qualitative and quantitative, some figure. Based on that, we can compare, and it will be non-controversial, non-contradictory. And that is the calculation of 3 elements. 1, status of health. Second, education, the competency of problem solving. It is not the educational degree, the competency of problem solving. The third one, what resource they have got in their hand. So the health also could be calculated, kind of rate of mortality and morbidity. It can be compared, calculated.
Right.
About the education, it is mentioned in United Nations. You can see the rate of in the school enrollment or dropout. That can be compared from all the villages. And the GDP, the resource which they have, the family has for a decent way of life. So these 3 parameters are used for calculation of human development index. So if you ask me, S.B. Roy, what kind of development criteria you will consider to measure whether the tribal development from the past 10 years is today, or if you have on the same, what is in the Odisha compared to West Bengal, or what is the tribal development in Haryana. So these United Nations definition of human development can be applied. The problem is, in Government of India, Ministry of Tribal Affairs, they have already mentioned that the rate of human development index of tribal is lower compared to the HDI, human index of the non-tribal. This is well known, it is established. But if you ask any tribal development agency or practitioner, when you start tribal development, have you measured the human development index today? And can you tell me that after 2 years or 3 years you are progressing? I'm afraid. We know human development index, but when we practice human development, we do not compare. So we go on talking, debating, it becomes an opinion based, and opinion based will put you nowhere. So to me, Human Development Index of United Nations, which has been universally accepted, a development practice has to know it, calculate it, compare it, and then say, this is how we are going. So that is how I understand it, human development.
Thank you. Dr. Hota, I wanted to ask you, in this context, when you have the environment around tribals being denuded on a daily basis, as you said, the forest cover in India has declined, everyone knows that. So how can they practice their old sustainable way of life? It is impossible.
Yeah, I would like to respond to you. You have asked a very pertinent question. I always say that, traditionally tribals were dependent on forests for their survival.
Right.
But with the introduction of various kinds of schemes and programs of government, and because of inundation of forest, depletion of forest, the tribals are no more depending as much as they used to depend in the past. And when we talk of tribal development, tribal development can be seen in two ways. If I'm just trying to give you a figure, that figure probably will justify where we are going to. As you know, in the entire country, we have 705 tribal communities, and tribals constitute 8.6% of the total population of the country, and they are about 10.43 crores if you see 2011 census. They are distributed in 215 tribal districts identified by Government of India, Ministry of Tribal Affairs, out of 593 districts that we have in the country. And we have as many as 627 tribal development blocks in the country, which means more than 50% population of these blocks belong to tribals. If you look at why I'm trying to say is that if you would like to see what is the forest coverage of these tribal districts, when you compare it with the All India figure, you will find that as much as 59.3% of the total forest coverage of the country remains in the tribal TSP districts or TSP blocks or tribal districts of the country. This indicates that tribals have a dependence, at least tribal stays close to the vicinity of the forests, and they are dependent on forest for their survival. Whether it is absolute dependence or it is a secondary source of income that supplements their income is a matter to be seen. But I can only tell you, in the past, they were more dependent, and now they are less dependent on the forest, precisely because the forest resources, which used to be very rich for the tribals to harness and sustain, has not been maintained as much as it used to be. That is the reason, the question comes, conservation-based sustainable tribal development. Well, conservation-based sustainable tribal development is possible, provided we do plantation in the forest of the species which the tribals are interested in, from which they can, source their livelihood. And secondly, when you talk of conservation-based sustainable tribal development, I will not only say that the forest should grow, the forest should grow the tribal way. Forest, in addition to that, conservation of tribal culture is equally important. I think we'll be speaking in the course of the discussion as to what are those issues which should be conserved so far as culture is concerned, what are those issues which need to be seen for conservation of forest. But I can only tell you before I ask you to ask the other panelists a question. We do not have dearth of acts and policies. We have policies and acts which very much can be implemented, and if it is implemented, then conservation-based sustainable livelihood is quite possible. In this context, I would like to tell you that right from the time of British regime, they have very systematically, denied the tribals their rights into the forest. So I would like to tell you in my next spell, right from 1840 till 2020, what has been the approaches of government and British, colonialists about, dealing with the forest, denying the tribals from their rights, and not giving them an entry. All those things I'll tell so that you can get a feel how systematically Britishers had denied, and slowly over a period of time after independence, we have tried to put in place acts and policies which can take care of the conservation of forests as well as culture.
Professor Roy, how many of these acts and policies are actually appropriate?
Yeah. You wanted to know about the policy which is appropriate.
Yes. How many of these are actually appropriate to the tribals?
Most of the policies which is framed in our country are in favor of tribal development. So there is no dearth of policy. I will tell one or two examples. See, I agree what Dr. Ota has mentioned about the tribal, how their life, the culture, the practices are complementary to the forest ecosystem, and it is the symbiotic relationship. Without forest, the tribal cannot think, and without tribal, we cannot think of the forest. Is a interdependent. Yeah. So, in view of the interdependency, there are number of Government of India's policy right from the forest, and there is the National Biological Diversity Act, which allows community, not only the tribal, of all the community to conserve and manage. Interestingly, according to Biological Diversity Act, the BMC, they call it BMC, the Biodiversity Management Committee of the particular village, they have statutory power to punish anyone if they are over harvesting of any kind of biological resource. So this is a very strong policy which empowers community to manage their resource and have a statutory power. There are many government officers, they don't have any statutory power to confiscate, but the BMC has got. But many of the BMC, the tribals are not aware of it. So the policy is there. The problem is keeping people aware. Aware does not mean informing, building capacity of the community to manage the resource. So policy is there, lack of awareness, and also lack of competency of the community to manage the resource as per the Government Act. Because traditionally, they have been working with the forest and the government officers like a layman.
Mm.
Their knowledge has not been used. I'll give you one example about the conservation and tribal sustainability. I agree with Dr. Otashe that what are the resources over there and how we from abroad had one study during 88, 89 about how the tribals are using forest and forest resources. And in that study, it was found that the tribals are taking timber and non-timber, whatever forest resources which they have to use according to their tradition and life. They were not over-harvesting. This is the case of Jamboni, and it is a published document. And from that, it has been eye-opener to the World Bank and also the Forest Department, because before that, the Forest Department or any layman used to value forest in terms of timber only.
Right.
I repeat, we all used to value the forest in terms of the timber, how much timber, what is the cost of the timber. And in the year 1990, 1st June, Government of India issued an order that in order to support the community around forests, which include tribal also, they will be allowed to conserve the forest, and part of the timber share will be given to the community. So our perception was, if they conserve the forest and if they get value of timber, it is benefit to the community. So this is a general perception, even the World Bank also. I can refer, you can see the World Bank document, which has referred abroad study that whatever tribal collects every day from the forest, the value of non-timber is 4 times the market value of timber. Look at that. So we thought that if we share the timber value, it is giving benefit to the community. But through this study, it was found that timber value, even the market value, is lesser than the non-timber which is being harvested. So that study revealed that we should allow Forest Department or others to conserve the natural biodiversity, what Dr. Ota was also mentioning, and the value of the forest will not be considered in terms of timber money, rather as a biodiversity as a whole. So there's a policy and the understanding is there, but the dearth of practice. I'll come to sometime later, then how do we convert policy into information and to practice, how we do it, and do we have any example of such what I'm saying, that how to make clear about the tribal, non-tribal also about the policy. Here I would like to add one more point. I shared with you that the value of even in the terms of money, the value of forest, of timber is lesser than the value of non-timber. This is what I wanted to tell. Second point I wanted to tell you, that the community of there, they have their own traditional way of conservation of many plants, say mahua or butt. In our technical term, like a forester or any botanist, we call it keystone species. Keystone. That means one stone which holds the whole stone. So even if one mahua tree or people is lost, because of the loss of one tree, a chain of tree will collapse. So the tribal understand the value of one keystone species and how one keystone species is holding the entire system of biological biodiversity, which we do not know, which again we value a particular timber value. So the culture, the knowledge of the tribal are more important compared to the conservation base. That is why we are emphasizing now the conservation-based sustainability. And conservation, as Dr. Kota also mentioned, is not just plantation, is depending on that.
Right. Dr. Utta, may I bring you in here and talk about the kinds of practices that we can pick up from the tribal way of life, whether it's forest or whether it's medicinal, whether it's healthcare. What are the things that you have come across in your vast experience that actually can be mainstreamed?
You see, I would like to put few good practices.
Yeah.
I think good practices will become a better example, of tribal development, the way you are asking, particularly conserving, conservation-based sustainable tribal development. I'll just try to tell you that, Government of India and Ministry of Tribal Affairs have come up with a very innovative scheme. That scheme is titled as 1000 Spring Initiative. 1000 Spring Initiative. You see, in tribal areas, there are many perennial sources of springs, the water of which is not tapped properly. If it is tapped properly, that can be used very meaningfully for cultivation throughout the year by the tribals, and even for safe drinking water as well. This they have just started, but this is a very great initiative which can see conservation and also provide sustainable livelihood for the tribal.
Is it at the national level or state level?
This is a national level, covering the tribal states. They have identified 1000 springs.
Right.
So those springs will be revived and they'll be channelized in a manner so that the water can be meaningfully used for the livelihood. The second important thing I must tell you, Professor Rai was also mentioning about minor forest produce. Anything said and done, the tribals are heavily reliant on minor forest produce from the forests. But when they sell it, they sell it normally in a very distressed price, which doesn't help them really. If you look in terms of the kind of labor that they give. Government of India, again, I'm saying about Government of India, which we in Odisha also is practicing, and definitely it must be practicing elsewhere. They have done a one-stop solution. What is that one-stop solution? This will be Bandhan Kendra. Bandhan Kendra. In Bandhan Kendra, the value addition can be done. The marketing of MFP can be connected. And it will be a one-stop kind of a solution. Their minimum support price can also be provided to the tribals, the MFP which they have collected. Third thing I'll tell you, once it is done, it will definitely incentivize the tribals, and I think they will try to protect the forest more than before. Third important thing I'll tell you, which Odisha has practiced. Since I was director of tribal affairs for quite some time, and I have been involved, in various capacities for tribal development, we have come up with Mission Jivika. Mission Jivika. Mission Jivika, what it is, if you really go to tribal areas, you'll find that in isolated patches, different kinds of crops, different kinds of cereals are grown, vegetables grown. So these are not marketed properly because nobody will come to your house to take 5 kilos or 10 kilos of brinjal, 8 kilos of something else. So we have identified more than 1,000 clusters. So cluster of about 50 acres we have identified, and we are asking the tribals and counseling with the tribal to go in for one kind of crop, one kind of vegetable, so that marketing will become easier. And in fact, we have organized market linkage as well. Let me tell you, this is a very novel practice that we have done, and only we have started recently for about a year. Though these are early days, I tell you, this is providing much better price and much better production for the tribals, which was never done before. Fourth important thing I must tell you, which will be probably speaking in the course of our discussion, the Forest Right Act. You see, under Forest Right Act, I'm again giving you the example of Odisha. We have about 4.5 lakh titles which we have given to individual under Forest Right. Only giving Forest Right and a piece of land which they were tilling for ages is not going to address the livelihood issues of the tribals. So what we did, we converged with various departments, livelihood options, and out of 4.5 lakhs, we have already covered 2.5 lakhs beneficiaries, which is again, earning them a decent money, which was not yielding anything whatsoever. And in Gujarat, Odisha, and a couple of other states, another program has been launched, which is called as Wadi. Wadi is nothing, it is just a kitchen, kitchen garden kind of a thing. This is also doing good. Tribals do not have huge land close to their house. There are small patches of land, and we have promoted different kind of, things to grow in Wadi, which is not only, addressing their own requirement, it is also, they are also able to earn a little out of that. Two more things I would like to put, here. We are talking about community forest right and community forest resources. You see, these are two such things under the Forest Right Act, which once settled will provide the community huge chunk of land, and they will have, title. The community will get, title over that, and they can literally do any kind of conservation that is suitable to them, and that can earn, very good money. But the sad story is that if you look at CFR, if you look at community forest resources and habitat rights for the particularly vulnerable tribal groups, it has hardly been achieved. Only about 6% of the total potential land that will come under the CFR, CFRR, and habitat right has been settled. Once this is settled, this will do very good. Wherever this is...
Dr. Ota, I will try to... Dr. Ota, sorry, I am interrupting you here because a lot of academics is being discussed. As a journalist, I want to know a little more than that, because you are doing so much good work, you have written so many books, and Professor Roy has written so much. I would like to know, as a journalist, I am asking you, I have not read much about tribal, but a little bit I know. Let us go into the sociology of it. A tribal, you are treating tribal as a sociologist group or some kind of a geographical group. Because when you talk about sustainable and you are a conservative, all that, it applies to certain geographical area. Because about, what you say, 50% of the population tribally concentrated on only 90 districts of India. 40% of them live only in Northeast. So when you talk about tribal development as a concept, first I want to know what is tribal. Is it a geographical concept or is it a sociological concept? Only then you can go forward, okay, we have to develop. If you identify geography, then it is easy to develop. Tribal integration is important or tribal development is important? Professor Roy, because it's...
Yeah. If we do not develop the geographical habitat what you call the forest-based ecosystem, we cannot think of development of the tribal. Tribal and the geographic, what you call geographical, we may call it forest ecosystem, they are interdependent, symbiotic. So that has been the problem in our development. You have raised a very relevant point. We think of tribal as a part and geographical ecosystem another part. Unless we understand the relationship between the part and whole, we cannot address the issue of a system. If you think of treating my heart but ignore my body, it cannot be. So tribals are like a part of the whole ecosystem, and any kind of development plan has to be in terms of development of the tribal as well as the ecosystem. And another point which you have very importantly mentioned about the percentage, the ratio of the tribal and the land, the ratio of the tribal and the land, the tribal forest ecosystem, the geographical area is shrinking. If you see the Forest Survey of India report, of course, in last 2-3 years, it has been a bit increasing, but that has increased outside the forest, green cover. Inside, as Dr. Ota has also mentioned, it has not been increasing, but the tribal population is increasing.
Dr. I'm raising another question, right, because I'm raising a question of tribal development. When you develop 40% of its Northeast population is tribal, if you develop the entire Northeast in a homogeneous way, they will also get developed. Then there is another question, Dr. Ota, I want to ask him, because then you're talking conservative-based sustainable development. Forest and tribal, there is a conflict. There is a conflict between tribal. You don't want forest to be cut. You don't want, even the Supreme Court judgment says, if you grow a grass, that becomes the forest. So if you are going according to that judgment, if there is a grass on your plot in tribal area, if you cut that, that is a forest, that will be taken over by that. In that kind of a conflict, when the tribals are being denied their right to cultivate or exploit their own land, where you get the development, you have to bring them out of the forest, only then they can develop.
That's right.
Are you suggesting tribal development lies only bringing the integration of the forest, bringing them out of the forest, because forest cannot be used for economic activity? Only bamboo has been introduced now with this government. So that so when you're talking tribal development, let us talk, because tribal per capita income is almost 1/6 of the national per capita income.
I
availability. So I'm raising that question. You let us discuss when you're talking about tribal. First, settle whether tribal should be allowed to harness or harvest their forest, whatever they produce they've got. Their land rights that is going on, there is a act has been passed that okay, their lands will be taken away or given back to them. There's a conflict going on. What is the source of income of tribal if you maintain the forest there? Dr. Huda, I would like to, because
I am also eager to respond to you. Let me tell you, I have told at the beginning. Let me repeat it. You see, we have acts. We have very powerful acts. We have 3 very powerful acts which are not, implemented sensibly. If these are implemented sensibly, which tribals have a right to, it is a question of right. It's a question of entitlement, no favor. They're not asking you for a favor. If you look at the 1980 Forest Conservation Act, it very clearly gives permission to the tribals to harness, whatever is there in the forest, not by cutting the timber, but by taking the produce. It very clearly says that whatever you say is generated from there should go to the tribal first. And when you talk of 1996 PESA Act, Panchayat Extension to Scheduled Area Act 1996, it puts a further stamp on that. It gives, it empowers the Gram Sabha to take a decision how to use the minor minerals, the minor forest produce, and all that.
So
I'll just come to that.
Sorry to interrupt, Dr. Ota, but the fact is that the tribals don't have rights to the minerals. That has been one of the biggest issues, especially in states like Jharkhand, which are so mineral rich.
Now, I'm coming to that. The very pity thing is that, if you really look at all these acts and provisions, the PESA Act is the most powerful act. But very sadly, though it has been promulgated in 1996, today is 2020, 25 years have passed by. Union government is yet to come up with a rule to support it. Without a rule, an act becomes, inoperative. Once the rules are, announced by Government of India, which I wish it should come very quickly, probably, and with the Forest Right Act, strong Forest Right Act, which has been, designed to undo the century-long injustice that has been done to the tribals, I think it is quite possible. And if it is implemented in letter and spirit, all these acts are entitlement for the tribals. There is no mercy. The implementation is in the hands of government. Let me tell you very honestly, so far as FRA Act is concerned, we in Odisha, we are number one in the country. I boast of that, you see. Odisha could do it. Odisha is also a tribal state having 62 tribal communities and 13 heritages. If Odisha could do that, others can also do that. We have gaps, I don't say no. But then if Odisha can do that with the same provisions, why other states cannot do? Why Jharkhand, Mr. Chawla was saying, Chhattisgarh cannot do? They can also do it. We have policies and rules, acts in place, but we have to implement it.
Professor Roy, what is lacking there? Is it mere political will, or is it just greed?
No, first of all, as I mentioned in the beginning, is the issue of the perception. If you ask any politician or bureaucrat, don't you want the conserved forest or don't you want the tribal development? What happens is a very interesting question. What happens? The forest ecosystem has to be conserved. Conservation does not mean preservation. Preservation and conservation, these two are different. Conservation means you nurse the forest and harvest it. So when the tribal nurse the forest, take care of the grassroots management and harvest, they can survive on the forest harvest without damaging the forest. If you see the history, the harvesting of the timber has been done by the major companies, the corporates, and also for the commercial use. Tribals are often used by the commercial as a laborer to cut and the load on that. But if you see the natural culture of the tribal, it does not allow for timber harvesting and truckload. Truckloads are done by the tribal only when they are used by the labor.
So, you're making a very fundamental issue. Now there is a conflict that if tribal are not allowed to load the truck, they're not allowed to cut the tribal. Now you're talking about development. Let us go back to the definition of development of tribal. It's a holistic development. He has to get better health facilities. He has to get a better income. He has to get to a sanitary. He's got a house with a toilet. If you look at this, what is happening, 70% of the tribals have no toilet at all. But when you're talking truckload, getting into technical issues like the tribal will not load the timber in the truck. Timber is required for development as well. There's a conflict between what you are talking and what the country requires. There has to be balance. When you talk about tribal development, let me know as an academics from you, the tribal development, total all-round development of tribal community, what should be done to improve their per capita income? Can you please tell me both of you?
No.
Let us not get in theory. Let us get at how to increase the per capita income of a tribal family, which is 1/6 of the national average now.
This is the program which we have recently launched, that while you conserve the forest, on the forest fringe area, there has to be sustainable agriculture that is organic. And also now the national working plan of the Government of India for is mentioned that National Working Plan 2014, it mentioned that forest fringe community, their livelihoods has to be taken care. It also mentions that under the CAMPA, recently the Government of India, Ministry of Finance, Madam has announced that 6,000 crore CAMPA fund will be given for the tribal. So that will be used for agriculture, fishery, farming, and also horticulture. So this is the natural interdependent of the system, how the forest will be also conserved and how they will have income. Not only that, such kind of approach will improve the environmental system, which will help for the tribal as well as for the non-tribal also.
Dr. Hota, I will ask you,
yeah.
he said that he made a very important point. I will ask you
Yeah.
because you are implementing policies on the ground.
Yeah.
I want to know how the Odisha government has done so that the tribal population has more money in their hands without disturbing the natural habitat.
Absolutely. You know, Odisha is again an example, a very good example of, a project called OTELP, Odisha Tribal Empowerment and Livelihood Project. You know, it has identified 30 most backward tribal blocks of the state, and with the funding of IFAD, and DFID and United Nations World Food Program, they had taken up, the economic aspect of the economic and empowerment of these people, of these tribals, remaining in those 30 most backward blocks. And what it has been done, they have empowered the BDCs, Village Development Committees, and through them, they have identified each individual at the household level, and they have prepared a household specific, livelihood package. And with the assistance, yes, please. And with the assistance, with the input from this project, which was a 10-year-long project, the project has come to an end. We have seen and we have done an evaluation, which was done by TRI Odisha, and we have come up with the fact that they have enhanced their income by 30% over a period of these years. So if
I'll just, because I want to get some answer, because I have a news person, so I want to know, both of you are very expert and very knowledge. If we go on discussing, it will go on for hours. Professor Roy, I want to know, because education, as far as the literacy is concerned, tribal population, when you're talking about development, I'm talking about development, all-round development.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean only one thing. Even in literacy, 70% of the tribal people drop out by the class of 10, as against 25% at the national level. Mm-hmm. So this dropout is happening maybe because of economic reasons also, because people can't afford to stay in a school or they can't go. So how do you stop? Because unless you make them education, I want to think the tribal should not be treated as tribal forever. They should all be integration of the society with the rest of the society. So how you prevent this kind of dropout so that if they don't become education, literacy doesn't go up, how will you become more productive, more economically prosperous?
I think I would like to respond to it.
Yeah.
Mr. Chawla.
Yeah.
This is again, an interesting question. Education is the foundation on which the livelihood can enhance. You are right. Dropout was very high. I am going to the micro level Odisha. What we did, over the last 10 to 15 years, we also noticed that the dropout rate is becoming very high. We constructed 7,500 hostels, and we have we have brought our children and we have done a residential mode of education. Believe it or not, the dropout has reduced to single digit, less than 5%. And not only that, in terms of quality education, in terms of the results, you'll find our children are doing way, way better than the children of general schools. The results of 10th, standard has come out only recently, a couple of weeks back, and our children have excelled that compared to the state average. So the only answer, if you ask me, from the education point of view is that we should have a residential mode of education for the tribal children to see success.
You have got a university.
Yeah.
Sorry. You have a university in Odisha where all the tribal children, the more than 30,000, 25,000 studying residential form of that you are saying. There's a university in Odisha.
Yeah.
If somebody is doing that, the only university which is tribal only.
Yeah.
Professor Roy. Yeah, she's asking something.
Professor Roy, I just want to bring you in here and talk about this kind of development. Now, what happens is that you're actually preparing tribals to, in a way, become migrants and workers outside the state. We saw recently in the case of Orissa, for instance, where you had all these girls who were stuck in Kerala working in a factory there, and then they had to be flown back to Kendrapara because of COVID. Now, in such a situation, there is a kind of disjunction between what the culture that their parents are used to and the culture that they get accustomed to. And then there becomes a divide. And how does that kind of development, the educated migrant tribal and the uneducated migrant families that remain, how does that pan out?
A very interesting question. It's not for this discussion only. The whole world is struggling about the understanding of development. What do you mean by that?
Yes.
I have some perpendicular thinking about that. Last time I told Kabir. By extending road, residential school, providing school uniform, bicycle, books is one way.
Yeah.
To me, we have studied in Birhor and other tribal. Most of them, they study half-heartedly. They have given in Hazaribagh, in Saranda, we are working, and in many places, Birhor, and they were given Pakka house. And they were also given source of water. Now imagine the Birhor and most of the primitive tribe, they were having the traditional way of culture and living. Livelihood was Birhor three sources. They are hunter, food gatherer. They used to depend on the rope making. They will also have a kind of forest tuber and food. Now, traditionally, they are used to this. Suddenly, they brought some Pakka school. So what happens after the study, it was found that PVTG, which we used to earlier called primitive tribe for understanding, the particularly vulnerable tribe now, we call it PVTG, despite so much investment on the infrastructure, school, building, uniform, bicycle, you know the result? They suffer from malnutrition.
Right.
They suffer from getting a lot of employment. So they migrate. They became prey of the industry. Right. Why? What Prabhu Chawla mentioned, that the whole core is the forest.
Right.
So if the root is dismantled, if you nurse the flower and seed, it cannot be. So the base is the forest ecosystem and the tribal, which is interdependency. Only the surplus move for migration because they have not. Such migration splits their family. Yeah. Family become fragmented.
Yeah.
The social life is fragmented. So neither they become suitable for Kerala, nor for their own house.
Nor for Orissa. You know?
Yeah, not for Odisha. Because of our fault in, we consider, even me, anyone, consider tribal development, uska school kahan hai, uska अस्पताल kahan hai, road kahan hai, pani kahan hai. No one thinks about the culture, what Dr. Ota has mentioned, and survival. So without thinking of survival,
I think yeah, let me talk now because time has gone beyond that.
Without thinking of the survival,
I want to make a philosophical question.
Yeah.
Should we develop the tribal areas or should develop the tribal first?
We should develop tribal area. We should develop tribal area.
Let Dr. Ota answer. Professor, you can answer that after that.
Mr. Chawla, I must tell you, it has to be both. It has to be a combination of both. We must develop tribal area, and we must also develop tribals. One without the other is not possible. And unless the area develops, we can. Professor Rai talked about the inaccessibility. I can tell you, hundreds of tribal villages are there in the state, and thousands of villages in the country which cannot be accessed even during non-rainy season. They don't have roads. They don't have facilities of hospital and all that. Minimum basic amenities are not provided in many places of the country. So the area must develop, and at the same time, the tribals should also develop. And I think we don't have much time, but I can only tell you a couple of things more before I conclude. The tribal should not be, their livelihood should not only be based on forest resources. Their livelihood also should be tapped from various other sources. If we only look at forest and try to provide livelihood for the tribals, I don't think it is going to be possible. It has to be a combination of both. But one thing I must say for sure, in the forest, the plantation which is done is more, timber centric. I think it has to be a combination of both timber and trees which can, give fruits. Fruit-bearing trees also should be planted.
Professor Rai, I will ask you the last question.
The last question.
Last question I'm going to ask you. Do you want tribals to participate in the national development by coming out of the forest and be part of India rather than confined to their forest and doing only little menial works there? Tribals should become part of India because you got job reservation. Some of them come to good All India services also. But tribals should also become like other entrepreneurs. They should become Indians. They are going. I want to see a tribal who can be a Tata. Why not?
True. I said in the beginning and now also that tribal should be provided best education. Why their children will not aspire to become a doctor, engineer, or IAS? I admit, I say that. But for tribal development, if you make few IAS, few doctor, few engineer, those doctor, engineers, and IAS, they will not be in their village for tribal development. They will not. So we get confused. So there should be opportunity of tribal development. Those talented, we discussed last time with Nikhabel, those talented, they must become IAS. They must join engineering. But the whole mass, the mass is different. The mass is the base that is on the sustainable survival. So for few people for aspiring, you can't have a stake of the survival of the entire community. So this is our perception of thinking. Second point I must tell over here.
Professor Rai, I think we have to listen to you more often now.
No.
Dr. Hota and both of you are very well informed about tribal. We have to somehow, unfortunately.
One more point I will tell. Let us not have a blanket statement like सभी इंडियन लड़कियों को साड़ी पहना दो और सभी को चूड़ी पहना दो और सभी को शादी के लिए मंगलसूत्र पहनो. The tribal are heterogeneous.
Right.
Among the tribal, say Birhor, they have a different culture. Among the Birhor also, Birhor of Saranda are much different from Birhor of Hazaribagh. We are working in that. But what happened to a policy maker? One blanket statement.
Right.
Shadi Suda औरत को मंगलसूत्र होना चाहिए. What is this? When you talk of this and in the parliament, you know what kind of questions asked? कितने tribal का school हुआ? कितने को साइकिल मिली? हाँ, कितने लोगों को competitive examination में बैठाया गया?
That's the question I'm asking now. You are talking about in the number.
But I think it's very. I think the sum of the discussion today was very interesting because I think the point we are making and a very valuable point is that you cannot use the same parameter for development of tribals and non-tribals And even among tribals, you have to have different kinds of development. And I think that is something our planners and our implementers ground have to realize. Thank you both very much for the enlightening discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you. And may we have many more. Thank you so much.